Our guest broke the world electric boat speed record, reaching 116 miles per hour. For more than 25 years, he has been a speedboat racer and a pioneer in high voltage electric marine propulsion. Today, he's here to share how electric technology is changing the future of high performance boating. Please welcome Alex Mongeon. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me today, Daniel.
Well, when I saw your technology, it made me reminisce on my past because I grew up on the water in the Hawkesbury district of New South Wales. And our river was probably around about 100 kilometres long from where I lived in Windsor, and it would go all the way out to the ocean. And so from probably the age of 4 or 5, I was wakeboarding, water skiing, and kneeboarding. And that's what our family did. So when I saw your product, all these old memories started to flood back of all the good times we had on the water many years ago. But we used a lot of petrol. Our boats were loud. Flames would come out of the intake on top of the carburetors. Your eyebrows would be singed. Ropes are getting burned. But times have changed by the looks of it.
It does change. And do you remember how many gas stations were on that 100 kilometers on that river? How many of them were there? Like two, maybe one, two? How many of them?
Well, I think there was one, and that was for the rich people because the gas on the water was super expensive. So we would have to truck it in jerry cans, and then we'd have to take the jerry cans all the way down to the beach, and then pour them in the back of the boat. So that was for the rich people, the ones on the water. But for us, we had to do it the old way.
And it's going to be an interesting podcast today because you know what you're talking. So you do know that boating is cool. It's a very nice thing. And you remember that thing probably 35, 40 years ago. But you also remember that you were already facing challenges back then by carrying fuel or gas, or actually it was expensive. So imagine every houses on that 100 kilometers can get your boat charged for about $6 or $7 of electricity, and you don't have to carry any weight. So when you're done after a day of boating, you keep that boat at the dock. You're running your power cord because it doesn't need the grid like cars, and it gets charged overnight. And you don't have that smell, that vibration, that sound. So if you do wakeboard or ski or you're pulling people around, you can have a discussion while this guy is doing some surf in the back of the boat, and you can discuss and talk with him. And if he's actually, I don't know, just being pulled in the water, it doesn't have that fume and that oil in the water. So these are the things that we will probably discuss today. And but you're the right candidate for discussing about the technology and what
Mhm.
I've been achieving and thinking for the past 15 years. So it's going to be interesting.
My uncle had a boat, and it was called Fire Tail. And true to its name, it used to blow fire out the back of the boat because it had this big V8 engine. It was chromed. It had all these anodized pipes coming out. It had a big air intake on top of the carburetor. And when you put your foot flat on the accelerator, it would blow flames out of it. And for the boys and for the men, they probably liked that. But the mums, the girlfriends, the aunties, they didn't like that. They didn't want to be a part of that. They would get in the boat and they couldn't enjoy themselves because it was so bloody loud. The vibrations, the sound would get into your head, the sound would get into your entire body, and you couldn't really enjoy yourself. Like it might have been exciting for the first time because you hear this engine rumbling away. But when you're in there in your water skiing for 20 and 30 minutes at a time and all you can hear this, that gets a little bit
The
boring,
only
but
the only person that enjoys that it's the guy who has the steering wheel or the driver of the boat. The rest of the people are actually worried and scared, and they don't even know what's going on and what's going to be the next thing. And back then, when you were actually looking at your uncle, he was actually that man. He was the man with that big muscle boat, and I love that. And I was racing with 1850 horsepower engines with two of them on the boats, and I was someday your type of uncle. And but if you step back and you look at how those things are, when I was a kid, I was watching a movie. I watched it probably 50 times. It's called The Great Outdoor with Dan Aykroyd and John Candy with driving one of those crazy boats, exactly the boat that you described. That's the boat in the movie. And he's pulling a water skier and he's trying to kill him. The thing is today, uh, generation has changed. You need your wife approval before buying a car, a boat. You need your kids. You need to convince them that daddy's going to spend the money wisely and it won't affect our lifestyle. It will improve our lifestyle. It won't be a challenge. It won't be a headache. We're going to enjoy life and we're going to have a good time on the water. And this is where actually it's time to show and present the electric product when the buyer is ready to buy and he's come to one of our dealerships to look at a gas boat with a very eco-friendly Mercury engine of 200 horsepower. They're doing very nice, quiet, better, much quieter than back then. But when he's done driving this pontoon or that bow rider or ski boat, then you show him the electric one, and the wife and the kids going to give the thumbs up
Mm,
because, and you want them to come boating with you because you just said it.
mm,
For 20 hours, the driver, the captain of the boat is having a blast. But you can have a glass of water or juice or wine and having food on the boat when that maniac is driving that thing. It's cool for a few minutes, but if you want to enjoy a full day of boating, you need something that is actually spacious, quiet, easy to manage, easy to use, because the use is also different than your regular gas boats. There's less adjustment. The driving is much different, like an electric car. It's what
mm,
you're feeling when you're driving an electric car. I like gas car. I have a few old muscle cars, 1959 or 65. I like that old type, but it's more like a classic painting on the wall than having something that you could use. And boats are like that today. It's
mm,
you need if you try it, then there's no coming back once you start trying those around.
mm. You're 100% right with how we purchase boats because our first boat, my dad purchased, and he purchased it off his nephew, and it was his choice of boat. And I think it had like a 357 engine in there. It was loud. It was a water ski boat. The front of it probably sat about 6 inches off the water, and he put a high pole in there so we could wakeboard. But mum would never come out in the boat. It was too loud for her. It was unenjoyable. The whole engine was exposed in the back of the boat. So for her, she didn't want to be in there. And we probably had that boat for maybe about 3 or 4 years. And it was good for me and my brother to wakeboard, and it was good for dad to drive. But mum never came out on the boat. We never had any girlfriends who wanted to come out on the boat. So we couldn't show off to the girls with our wakeboarding skills. And then we got to the stage where my mum said, "You're getting good with wakeboarding, but we need to get a better boat." And we went shopping and we looked at all these different boats. And eventually we came across a Nautique Super Sport. And when we saw the boat, my mum looked at it, she turned around and she walked away. And my brother and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "That's the boat." We said, "Why did you walk away?" She said, "Because I knew I'd have to buy it for you." So mum gave the green flag to the boat. And it was a beautiful boat. And it was a big boat, but we needed to have a bigger car to tow this giant boat because it was one of the biggest boats in Australia at the time, a Nautique Super Sport. So we got the boat and now we've got to fill it up. And you go to the gas station, and probably in the mid 1990s, it was probably costing close to a couple of $100 to fill it up back then. And I would be scared to think about how much it would cost to use it now. If we used to spend $100 a day wakeboarding, I'd have to assume that style of boat today would probably cost you $250 for an afternoon of riding. And the other
There are
thing with
more.
that boat,
Yep.
it was good, but it was still pretty loud. You had the smell of the gas coming out the back, although you had a platform, you couldn't really sit on it because the fumes are coming up, and it was loud. And the girls still didn't want to come out on it. The only people who wanted to come out on it were the boys. But
And
when
that's
you're
the
18 and
target.
19, you want to impress the ladies.
And actually, it's your weekend. You're all weekend long on that. You want to have friends, and on weekdays when you have time after school and after work, you want to take a few rides on the water. And today you see like there are 15, 20 kids on those boats, and they don't stop all day long, and they don't go do more than 11, 12 miles per hour because they're all surfing. They don't
Mm,
do any more skis and wakeboard. It's too fast and there's almost waves. There's a few of them doing one or two passes a day, maybe
mm,
20 minutes, 30 minutes, but everyone's surfing. And the weight distribution with electric batteries, it's it's all. And now Nutique is building pretty very nice electric ski boats. That same boat that you were riding with your family, now it's electric. Once you have try one of them, you're done. So Nutique is there, and they're actually pretty good at it. So we need more Nutique. He's probably, I would say, one of the best example of how it could be a very good use case for lakes and river and for family boats. And they have a very good product. We don't see them a lot in the US, but uh, I was actually trained by motor manufacturers in 2013 how to. I was buying my engine back then electric from the same supplier, Pictronic, and Pictronic was introduced to me by Nutique back then in Düsseldorf, Germany. So I had to travel across the ocean to meet the right people because here in the US, I was crazy. It was didn't make sense. I was thinking
mm,
of building a flying broomstick, but today it exists. And a bit
mm,
like what Elon Musk did in 2007-8, building an electric car, there was a joke. And today, each manufacturer has at least one or two model of electric cars, and it's changing slowly. It's not for everyone. It's like a boat. It's not for everyone. It's not an offshore boat. You cannot go offshore fishing. It's made for lake, canals, river boats under 35 feet, and it's overnight. It could not be a weak boat without being charged with this big gen set. But 85% of the market is about boaters who are using the boat for a full day.
mm,
So the business, the business case or the use case is actually what you were living with your family and your uncle back then. Things didn't
mm,
really change. That's what people do today.
mm. It was so different back then. My brother and I were both Australian champion wakeboarders. We were the best of our generation. I competed in extreme games in wakeboarding, and it was petrol, petrol, petrol. And we used to also produce wakeboarding movies. And so in the 90s, we would have to call my uncle, the rich uncle, and say, Uncle, would you come down to the river with your helicopter? And he'd say, What do you want to do? We'd say, We want to film our wakeboarding movie. He said, I'll take the doors off. So the rich uncle flies down next to the river, lands, pulls the doors off the chopper, and we're filming a wakeboarding movie from a chopper flying down the river. The chopper's loud, the engine's loud, the boat's loud. But today, the younger guys are out on the river. The boat makes no noise because it's electric. They don't use a chopper, they use a drone, which is battery operated. And it used to cost a fortune to do that type of stuff. People can't get their minds around that. We used to take a helicopter down to the river and fly the chopper over the top of us whilst we're wakeboarding. We try to explain that to people these days and they go, That's not possible. You can't do that. So we pull out the photos and they go, Obviously you can. But that's old. That's the old way to do it. The new way, and as you were mentioning before, the young guys wake surfing. My brother took me out on the river in Sydney just about 3 months ago, and he said, Dan, he said, you're not going to see any wakeboarders out here today. You're not going to see any water skiers going fast. You're just going to see young guys on their dad's boat wake surfing. And he was right. 20 years ago, when I bought my first wake surfer back from Orlando, I went down to Performance Ski and Surf in 2003 and bought home a wake surfer. 2003, people were like, What's a wake surfer? Like, what are you doing surfing behind the boat? I said, For me, this is the future. It's low impact. I probably can do this into my 40s or 50s, and I'm not going to get an injury. In the Nordique, my brother and I, we used to ride at 26 miles per hour, and we used to ride at 90 foot of rope. 90 foot. And people are like, That's insane. Because wakeboarders today are probably, 18 mile an hour? And they're probably on 55 foot of rope. We were 90 foot and we were always injured.
The
I
CG is
had,
increasing a lot when you have that type of rope, and people don't know that. But it's violent. It's I don't know how many injuries you got, you and your brother, but it's a very violent sport.
Well, he had 5 knee reconstructions. So torn ACL, torn cartilage. I did my posterior cruciate ligament and my cartilage. And then I was probably knocked out for 10 years because at 26 miles an hour and you're on 90 foot of rope, my estimation is by the time we edge out and we would be parallel to the boat and then we would cut back in, by the time we're over the top of the second wake, I believe that we were traveling at least 40 mile an hour through the air. And
Yep.
then by the time we hit the water, it was like concrete. And it was obvious that other people didn't want to do that. Other people didn't want to go through the pain and the injuries. And it took me, what did it take me 10 years to become an Australian champion? And it wasn't because I wasn't a good rider, I was good. It was just I was injured so often. Even in 2006, when I won the men's Australian championships, I had busted up my ankle 6 weeks before the competition. And that was because I fell off a slider. We had a gap slider. So we had one pond. We had a 4-wheel motorbike that would pull us along through the water, would hit the slider, go over the gap. And unfortunately, I went off the side of the slider and I hit the land and I busted up my ankle. But we're always injured. And I don't think people want that. I really think people want to miss a day of school, a day of work.
It's people are different. The new Gen Zs are actually a little bit less, I would say, I don't want to be rude, but jackass. So
Yeah.
they're cautious. They drink less. They're a little bit less wild than your generation and my generation. And I respect that. And we're listening to their needs. And they want to have a good time and enjoy the 8 hours on the boat. And they're not daredevil anymore. Some of them are, but they're a little bit more cautious, and we have to adapt and give them what they want. But coming back to your uncle with the chopper and filming, and that was the real deal back then. But today, and you're probably aware of, but you will see very soon autonomous ski boats pulling people around, being followed by their own drones, filming and capturing the images of that day of boat more better than Michael Mann filming a crazy movie and with the music and everything. And when it's time to slow down and he feels that he lost the power of it, he's turning back and he's got sensors and camera to protect more than you and I can drive a boat around. And when it's time to dock, they're bringing the boat back. Hyundai with Havicus is doing that. There's a bunch of drone companies who are actually that I know because I'm in the sphere and I'm working. You don't be surprised by seeing an electric autonomous boat for pleasure craft or for US for government projects. It's there. If it exists with a drone, taking control of a drone as a prop, it has a motor, electric motor. There's no big difference from that,
Mm.
from a drone to put that in an electric boat. So it's coming. So in 2 3 years, you'll see you're going to buy your new Nautique, and it's going to be driving by himself. He's going to be assist, and it's going to be filming you and giving you all the footage you want. And this is where we are. And it's we are there. It's a matter of hours or days before people sees it. But I'm in this in the space, and it's there. It's already there.
Mm. They're all the things I wanted in my generation. Because when we used to film, we had a Sony camera and would film on mini DV tapes. And the camera was this big. And it was $6,000. And the footage was of poor quality in comparison to today's mobile phones. You can record in 4K on your mobile phone, but we used to film in 1080 DP, and then we couldn't edit immediately because it wasn't digital, and we couldn't have a drone because drones back then you would have had to either have the helicopter or a radio control helicopter. That didn't work, and it would always take days and weeks to get your footage processed. But today, if I could go out on the boat, I'd be a lot happier because what I used to pride myself on when I used to drive the boat was being able to keep it on speed. Because we had some riders who would like to ride at 21.5 miles per hour. And I had prided myself on maintaining that speed. But I also prided myself on the ability to listen to the engine to figure out how many RPMs it was. And if I could keep the engine at that particular sound, that was good. But that was me. I'm obsessive, I'm compulsive, but not everybody else wanted to drive like me. Not everybody wanted to spend time behind the wheel. And when it came to my time to ride, I always felt that I got a poor quality driver. They wouldn't drive straight. The speed would go up and down. I would hit the wake and it would be crumbling on one side. I would land and they've already slowed the boat down too early. And as a high performer, I was constantly frustrated. And what you're
And
talking about here with like something like a Tesla,
wait,
anybody could
and
be a great boat driver. You set the speed, it remains consistent. You put it in a straight line and it's going to stay in a straight line. And the person who owns the boat gets to have a great experience. Whereas the boat owner, I always felt I had the worst experience when a
yeah,
friend hopped in behind the
yeah,
wheel.
you were stuck with Mr. Magoo driving around. And what was happening when it was time to do a full 180? So you were losing power because you need more torque. There's the hydrodynamics are increased. Electric, if we put the throttle, the RPM at 3000 RPM or 1800 because we want to do 18 miles per hour, we remove our hand, it will stay there. And with the torque, I can turn as much as I want, and I won't lose no, not even 1/4 of a mile per hour or kilometers per hour because the torque is so huge and it's perfect and there's no vibration and we don't lose any power when we do 180 degrees compared to your ice engine. I used to race gas boats and we still have friends racing fast gas boats. And when it's time to turn, you need to floor that thing to keep up with the
Mm,
loss of power. Electric,
mm,
mm, it's not happening. So that's the first thing I've noticed in 2014 when I was driving electric ski boat that we've built, and I was turning and I was keeping the same speed, turning at 40 miles per hour. Usually you go from 40 to maybe 35, 34. And then when it's starting back to get to straight lines and then you're keeping up, you're going back to the speed you were doing. Not with electric, not because it's my system and the other competitors that we have that we're competing with have the same type of system, and it's the same thing for their product as well. They don't lose speed when it's time to turn. These are the
mm,
little things that if you're a boater that you're noticing. And the other thing is when it's time to pull you out of the water, I have to be cautious because even if you're very good and you're strong, I could probably dislocate your two shoulders.
mm.
Jump on the water. You could sit on the dock with the skis or the board and with the rope, and you won't touch the water, and I'll put you on your skis. And very slowly, and then when it's tight, it's torque is.
That's how it should be. I was coaching wakeboarding and water skiing in the United Kingdom. And the lake that we're on had a cable water ski on one lake, and on the other side was the boating lake. And the good thing about the cable ski was the
Mhm.
cable ski had a consistent speed, nonstop. So when I watched people progressing on the cable, I was like, why do these people progress so fast? And my belief was it came down to consistency. You start, and as soon as you leave the dock on the cable, it's already going, let's call it 18 miles an hour. You can do your first trick off the dock within a couple of seconds. You go around all the 5 corners. Most cable skis are about 5 corners. It's the same speed in the same place at the same time. And people would progress really fast. But then I'd look at the boat and people would take a lot longer to progress. And the problem was with the technology because on a traditional ski lake, you've got to start the boat and then you've got to stop the boat at the end and turn around. But you probably lose a good couple of 100 feet or 100 meters getting the boat up out of the hole. Okay, I got the skier on the back. I put the throttle on. I got to get the boat up on top of the water. And now I've got to get them in a straight line. I'm already halfway down the course. And by the time it's ready to do a trick, there's only enough time to do one trick. Then you're turning around, you're coming back again. And there was so much time lost just in the technology of the boat. That was a major problem. And I could imagine today if these boats could get up out of the water planing in half the time, if they just did it in just a few seconds, you could be doing your next trick. And if you're at a competition, which we used to compete at, you could probably get in a couple more tricks by the end of the course, especially if you've taken a fall halfway through. That'd be totally different.
You you're right on, and it's probably one of the most interesting discussion I have over the technology, because you know what you're talking. People actually don't really know. They know about boating, they own a boat, but they're not into it as much as you do. So you absolutely, I need to set you up with Nautique and bring you to their private lake. And I've bought some tooling from them. So we have one of our model of boat that was actually built by Nautique, and now we have the tooling, and we're building them from the design from Nautique because they know what they're doing.
Mm.
So it's I'm I don't usually educate people, and now I don't have to educate you. You're actually discovering the new technology, but you know probably much more than I do. And especially on the ski boats, you know for sure much more, and everything that's tow, you know much more than I do. But what you're looking at, the experience on the tow boats and when you were on the water, I could tell you today, boaters are looking the same thing for bow riders or center console boats. They want to jump quick on plane. They want to be able to turn. They don't have a lot of time. Back when we were a kid, people could stay 8, 9 hours on the water, and Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. Today they have one day off or half a day off, and they want to get the boat ready now. They want it
Yeah.
to start. They don't want to wait. They don't just want to remove the cover on, and if they do, some of them don't even put cover on, and they want it turnkey ready to go, and they want everything in at the same time. Today it's that's the world we're living in. But all the good little things that you're talking about that was tough to get back then uh, are there, but you don't have the smell and the sound. But some people love the
Mm.
sound and the smell. It's not for everyone. I'm not trying to change the world. I'd like to get 1% of the market. I'm not asking for more than 1% of the market. And I will probably retire it when I could see at least one electric boat in each marina that I can go. So I'm not asking 500 boats. One out of 500, I will be happy. That's the goal. I thought about that in 2014, and people thought I was crazy, but it's getting there, but not as fast as I would like to. I need more, a bigger player jumping on board. I need Mercury, Yamaha, Honda as a manufacturers, but I need also all the other boat manufacturers to go that same route
Mm.
because it does make sense.
Mm. Mm. For my generation, I the last time I was really on the water, I was working in the Middle East, and I was the first pro wakeboarder living in Dubai. And I met a British man, and he said, "Daniel, come over to the Middle East. I will get you a boat, and you can train the local Arabs how to wakeboard." I didn't even know where Dubai was. I didn't even know where it was on the map. I assumed it was a desert, but it was in the Gulf. So we got there, and he bought a brand new boat. The problem is there was no petrol stations close by. So our team would have to go and fill up these big red jerry cans of gas 2 and 3 times a day. And then we would coach wakeboarding and water skiing on a private waterway. And the private waterway cost the Sheikh $1 billion to build. So it was 6 kilometers long. It was cut in from the Arabian Gulf right into the desert, and it would go in a straight line, and then there'd be a dog leg to the left, and then one to the right, and we would go up and down there all day. Problem was there was no gasoline. That always had to come in. Problem then, it was 50 degrees outside, 50 degrees Celsius, so that's probably like 120 your temperature, and it was loud, and you had to smell the fumes all day. And as a coach on the boat all day, that sound was exhausting. In the World Health Organization has said one of the greatest causes of disease is noise pollution. And when you're exposed to a sound of over 85 decibels consistently, that can create illness in the body. I don't know how many decibels our first boat was. It would have had to exceeded 135 decibels. And 135 decibels damages the ears, but it damages the body. But a lot of these boats are going to be in excess of 85 decibels because you're probably sitting on top of the petrol engine, or it's probably a couple of feet away from your face. That long term is not good for the body. I could imagine these boats that are electric and there's none of that sound. That would be a very pleasurable experience.
I don't know if you were on a sailboat. It's a bit a mixture between a sailboat and those electric surf that my kids are having the flights and the all the it's almost it's unreal when you're on it. The only thing you hear is the prop that spinning because it spin up to 6, 7, 8,000 RPM depending the engines you have, and you hear the water touching the hull, a bit like a sailboat when you're in the bedroom of a sailboat and people are sailing. It's This is challenging because the first thing people oh, I can hear the engines. No, they hear the gears turning because usually you have less gear than your regular ice engine gears, but now
Mm.
there's nothing camouflaging or covering that gears engines because the motor turns, but there's gears for the prop. So, oh, it's still loud. No, it's the prop spinning. It's
Mm.
we cannot it's not a we cannot avoid that type of sound. But once they just take a second step on a gas boats, now, oh my god, no, I want to get back on the other one. So we can have a discussion. I would say at 20 to 25 miles per hour we can have an interview over the TV. I had made my first interview in 2020 on one of our electric pontoons. They're not really popular in the US. In Europe, pontoons are like big barges. You see them
They're
if
really
you came
cool.
to the US. 70,000 of them are built per year in the US. So with the Anchorman opening news at 20 miles per hour, and you see the wind, and you hear dogs barking, but you don't. That's the thing. People in the interview, there's a dog on the boat. No, it's on the shore because you can hear the dog barking on the shore, but it's not the engine. So this is how crazy it is. If you can do an interview on a boat and you see a dog barking on the shore, and you're 100 feet from the shore, and the dog is louder than the engine, it tells you how quiet it is. But the vibration also, it's reduced by about, I would say, 85-90%. So you don't
Wow.
even, it's another thing. And when you move from forward to reverse, you don't have that. So because the motor turns both sides, the maintenance is reduced because you've got less moving parts. These are all the add-on. The screen is huge. It's easy to it's the way we have designed our system is actually connected to your phone. If your kids are in the water, you can see where they are, the state of charge, the speed, music they're listening. You know how long it will take to get the boat back on charge. There's so much little things that actually put you in a position that secures you. And 99% of the people are asking me that questions, and I'm surprised you didn't ask me that. And usually that's the first question. What's the range? Can you tell me, because you had a bunch of boats when you were a kid, what's the range of the boat that your mom chose, the Nautique? So it was probably one of their favorite family boats. So do you remember the range? How many kilometers, how many hours, how many kilometers could you run that boat for?
If I filled up the tank, I could probably get a day and a half of wakeboarding. But that's not full days. That's probably riding in the morning for 3 hours, getting out of the sun during the midday, riding it again in the afternoon. That was probably the max.
And you probably are actually a heavy boater and you are one of the best in the world. So you're using the boat like probably no one could use it. So, but at the end of the day,
That was with 1,500 kilos of lead in the boat.
for a massive weight. And
The wake's up to your hip.
yeah, some people don't know on this call on this podcast, but people wakeboard needs to be heavy and they need those ballasts and they need water in and they need to be
Yep.
heavy. But coming back to the question, so you do know it's probably about 8, 9 hours, 12 hours. Some
Yep.
of them, oh, I own my boat, my Sea Ray or my Chris Craft for the past 30 years. And what's the range? Is it important for you? No, it's not important. When I won't have any fuel, I will buy and put some fuel in. But the first question they ask about electric, what is the range? Okay, so we've created a system, and the first thing you see on the display is a huge number. So that number is actually miles, knots, or kilometers, depending where you are, and you choose the settings. That's the range. And the range, the number will be big when you'll start, and it will decrease as depending the speed you're doing. At 45 miles per hour, you're probably going to see only, I would say, 55 or 60, and that's going to be 60 miles. And if you're slowing down at 8, now it's going to go to probably 103. So it calibrates like a car. So
Mm.
it doesn't exist on boats. And so you do know that you can do 110 miles. So you know your cousin lives 20 miles away from the lake. You could do it a few times. And to
Mm.
protect people of running out of electricity on the water, because you probably run out of gas a few times in your past 25, 30 years, what you do, you call your uncle, your cousin, and then they come, and it's already challenging for yourself just to put some gas in your boat. Imagine when you're running out of gas, how challenges it is. So if we have people listening, they know what it is, what I'm talking about. The system is made, and we had add a limp mode at 15%. So we're running the boats at 25 miles per hour. We are at 20%. Then now you see the 20 and 18, 19 at 15. It will not break. It will slow down. You won't even feel it, but you're going to feel that you're losing power. So you're going to go from 20 miles per hour down to 10 miles per hour. It's going to be the limp mode. Even if you push the throttle to the max, and it will give you another hour. So no matter how crazy you are, you have to be actually very intoxicated not to get back to the shore, knowing that
Mm.
you have another 10 nautical miles or 15 kilometers to get to the shore. And then when you're at the shore, you're using anyone's shore power and get that thing charged, and you get back home, and we have a map with the shadow that moves and gives you the shadow change depending the speed you're doing. And those things don't exist with gas boats. And it should, because a car
Mm.
gives you the range,
Mm.
even if it's electric or gas. Boats, we don't give a damn. We'll put more in. But when it's
Mm.
time to buy an electric boat, first question, what's the range? And can I get electrocuted? So you had probably 3 or 4 batteries on your ski boats, and no one got electrocuted. But I can tell you, if I take two screwdrivers and I touch the batteries, I'll electrocute myself on your ski boats. On the electric boats, it doesn't happen. It's not the same type of technology. You can try to do the hell you want. You will never get electrocuted because these are IP67. You need to be submerged for testing. And I cannot submerge your 12-volt lithium DC30, your lead acid DC31 batteries. The bolt will spark and it's going to be causing a lot of damages. But to come back, people are aware of the range, but the range anxiety should not be existing because systems are made to prove to people that they will get to the destination. And we don't see Tesla running out of power on the highway. We still see
Mm.
people running out of
Mm.
gas. But
Mm.
would you ever seen a guy driving a Tesla or an electric car running out of electricity? No, systems are made to avoid those things. So okay, but when you're leaving the house, you know that you cannot do more than 400 kilometers. It's not made for everyone, as I said earlier. But if you know your needs, the size of your lake or your river, and the habits of the family and the needs, you choose the right one and you're covered.
Mm. I'm thinking about what you're saying here with people running out of gas. I hadn't thought about that for years, but there was one thing that we always wanted to avoid was another boat that had run out of gas. Because in our area, there was no gas stations on the river. And if we went out on a afternoon, so let's say, for example, I finish school at 3:30, I go home, I get the boat ready, dad comes home at 5 o'clock, we get to the river at 5:30, and we got 2 hours of sun. The last thing that you want to find is another boat who's run out of gas, because you're at a moral and ethical obligation to take him back to the ramp. And if we met somebody out there who'd lost petrol, it was the end of our day, because you want good karma. So you'd end up pulling them back to the boat ramp, which could be 10 or 15 kilometres. And now your day's ruined. That was the worst thing. On top of that, with limited time, you were saying earlier that we have limited time. Like my dad, he could work on the boat all night. He could work on the boat all weekend. He could pull it apart. But my generation doesn't have the time. I might be able to go out on the river at 5 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the morning, get it all to myself, take the kids out, get them to school and go to work. I don't have time to work on a boat. I don't have time to grease it up. I don't have time to spend an extra 15 or 20 minutes at the petrol station filling it up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And that's what we would have to do. Even if it was in the middle of winter, it'd be, let's call it 6 degrees, and it takes us 15 to 20 minutes to fill up the boat. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. But if I could have had that plugged in overnight, charging up, that gives me an extra 20 minutes of sleep. Doesn't give me any more time in the water, but it gives me an extra 20 minutes of sleep because my time is precious. I can get more money, but I can't get more time. And I'm 46 now, and I realize that there's only a certain amount of sleep that you can give away in your life. You can keep giving up all the sleep to the point where you get sick. And if you're sick, you're not going to be on the water. You're not getting out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to take the kids out for a quick surf before school. That's worth the investment in my mind.
And how can I say that? You're connected today. It's been, I'm a boater, so the system was built by a boater for boaters to actually also, because keep in mind, 15 years ago, people thought I was crazy. So I had to show them that what they were doing and what they were purchasing didn't make sense. So I had to prove them that it makes more sense. So I had to build something that actually makes more sense than what I was used to enjoy. So I had
Mm.
to convince myself, no, that's not the right path to do. And I screwed it up big time a few times using car parts, using car batteries, electric car batteries, trying to do what the car manufacturers were doing. It was a very long and painful challenge till I understood that I cannot try to do like the other marine manufacturers or any car manufacturers. I need to think about marketing like car manufacturers and providing the best experience to the purchasers of those boats. And even though the people who are buying electric boats don't own usually electric cars, as funny as it could be, because they live in like further areas where they don't have the grid to charge their cars, but they have the regular grid to charge their boat. So they have country houses where they have to drive 6 7 hours. Car cannot make it as we speak,
Mm.
but they
Mm.
have the power the country house, and they have 10 amps with on your end. It's going to be 240 volt or 220 volt. So they have that, and the boat would be charged overnight for $6 7. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, when you're waking up, you open the light of the boat from your cell phone. You see the state of charge. If there's a heater, you can start the heater on the boat. You see everything on your phone, and you let the kid go, and oh, they're at 45%, so perfect. When they're going to come back, it will take another 3 hours to get that thing full charge after lunch. They'll be back on the water. And my kids, I live in the water here in Florida, and we have spare batteries for their electric surf, and they share the same surf because it's an expensive surf. For me, it's expensive. So they have a timer. They can do runs of 10 minutes. So they know they can do 3 runs each till before the battery dies, and they're counting their time. So we start seeing that with electric boats when it's time to do water sports, because, and even the jet skis. Now we sell electric jet skis. A friend of mine is the founder and owner of Taiga electric jet skis, and the electric jet skis, it's no sound, it's fast, it's but you don't have a lot of range. You have about an hour, 15 minutes at full throttle. But if
It's
you use
pretty
your
good.
jet ski, your Sea-Doo, it will not do more than probably an hour and a half full throttle, even if it's gas. But you have to carry those heavy, and I'm 250 pounds, so carrying fuel for a jet skis is heavy, and you have to lift that thing. And imagine on your ski boat, man, it's,
Mm.
it's a workout just to fill the ski boats, and sometimes you have to do it twice during the weekend, and you need to put. And people who have ski boats, usually they have a country house, they have the big Range Rover, or in our country these are Escalade or a Yukon, and it smells fuel, and it's challenging. So when you're talking with someone who's boating, and first question I'm asking, I don't sell product. I just ask questions. Where do you boat? What's your habit? What you're looking for? What you're expecting? And I can tell them if it's the right product for them or not. And most of the people, 80% of the people, don't do more than 10 nautical miles every time that they take their boats out. They have their same way. They go to the sandbar or
Mm.
marina or friend's house, and they check houses on the water, a little bit spin off with the tube or the wakeboard. And no one's doing 80 miles a day in a day, or 120 kilometers
Mm.
maybe a maniac like you do, but most of the people don't do that.
Mm. Mm. I my brother sent me this picture the other day. This is me in November 2003. I had just come back from America and I'd been training in preparation for the world titles. And so that there, 2003, that photo,
Wow.
many years
Back in the
ago,
days.
back in the days. One thing that I think would be important for me to figure out is how much do you think a family would spend a day on gas if they were wakeboarding? So if they were wakeboarding, they were good riders, they were out there for 4 hours a day. How much money would they spend on gas?
In America, I would say about 250 a day. But the fuel is something, but people forget about also adding the yearly budget for maintenance of a boat, and you're talking about 10, 12%, up to 15% of the value of the boat in oil change, zinc, and everything that's related to the maintenance of that boat. So fuel is one thing, and then the maintenance to get that boat in shape, so like that it doesn't break on you. But that's what they spend, about 250 a day. And what we see in the US, they go boating about once a week. They don't go boating 2, 3 times a week.
Well, I'm glad you said 250 because I was thinking around about 400 Australian dollars a day for wakeboarding. That's what I was thinking in by the time we convert the currency. How much would it cost to charge an electric boat and get the same fun?
I don't have the right pricing. I can ask probably ChatGPT while we're talking. In Canada, we're looking about 6 cent the kilowatt per hour, and we have about 86 kilowatts. Sometimes we put up to 120 kilowatt. So you're looking at $5, $6 on our side. I don't know how much is the price of electricity in your area, but the battery packs are under 100 kilowatt.
Even if we doubled it, let's say it's 16, let's call it 40 Australian dollars. 40 Australian dollars I can justify, but there's something in my brain that can't justify $400 in gas. I think about $400 in gas, and in my brain, it's kind of like when you buy something from Amazon. You buy it for $100 and then they want $25 in postage. I can't justify the $25 postage fee. But if somebody charged me $125 and gave me free postage, I could justify that in my brain. But $400 a day, I couldn't afford it. I could not afford to
It's
take my kids out at that rate. But if it was $40 in electricity, that I can justify. That I can have as my hobby. That I can have as my play money. That I don't have to take anything away from my wife's budget. That I don't have to
for
sacrifice many other things in life.
what the number I gave you. It's not for a full tank of gas. It's for a day of boating. So if you take the two battery packs that we usually put on boats, these are 86 kilowatt, so 43 each. You got 86, and in Queensland, you're looking at 33 cents a kilowatt. So do 33 cents times 86. So you're probably looking at, I don't know, $4, something like that, and that's for a full charge. So even if you're a maniac and you're running that thing and you do one charge a day, you're still far away from what it should be in petrol.
Mm.
Um, Cost of purchasing it's a little bit more expensive, about 10% more. But the first, I would say, 50 hours after usage, you're covering your expenses and without counting the maintenance. So big it like an electric car. So, but now we're getting close to price parity. I would say in about 6 to 8 months, you will come in one of our dealerships. We have 8 dealerships in Florida, and we'll give you the options of that electric pontoon or that same power with gas engines, and we are $5 to $10,000 difference. So the first 4 or 5 months, customers is covered with the price of it. But the headache that comes with it, oof. So George, you told me there's one place to put fuel on that waterways. You're not the only one.
Yeah.
Marinas are so expensive.
Mm,
and there's less and less of them. People are building houses and that, and they did this destroying marinas, and they're building condos and apartment projects on those marinas. It pays much more than storing boats and selling fuel.
mm, mm. 100%. 100%. Well, that I can justify. That my wife will say yes to. And even if I rang my mum now and said, Mum, we need a new boat and it's only going to cost us $6 in electricity, she might even fund me the next boat. that, that's a good price point. My niece was getting married a couple of months ago, and I was in Australia, and a good family friend owns a business in marine parts. So when boats break down, when engines break down, they reach out to their business and they supply the east coast in Australia. And I was talking to Dave Castle about boating, and he said because of the cost of living in Australia has gone up, most people's fun budget has gone down. And a lot of Aussies, their fun budget was to have a boat and to go out on the water. They'd do a little bit of fishing, they'd do a little bit of tubing, they'll do a little bit of barbecuing. But he said because of the cost of petrol has gone up, a lot of people have stopped boating. So as I look at these numbers here, for an Aussie, you can have your boat budget back. You know, even if your boat was $80 a day in gas, and you could get that down to $8 in electricity, you can actually afford to get back out on the water. And not just for a little bit of time, you can go all the way to the end of the Hawkesbury River. You can go 50 miles down there and 50 miles back on your budget. Your kids can enjoy it, and that's affordable. That is justifiable. I think every Aussie wife would say to their husband, that's okay. We can afford $8, go have your fun. But $80 on gas, I think most people's logical brain says that doesn't make sense anymore. You can't do that 30 times a year for gas. But 30 times a year on $8, that's doable.
I'm only driving electric cars for the past, I would say, 4 or 5 years now. So I don't feel the price of fuel, and I don't feel the price of electricity. I'm charging my car and my two large SUV electric here. And I used to drive that same truck with a gas or diesel engine because I like over my expenses. So diesel was less expensive. I could do more range and I could get more for my money. And I've got
Mm,
the same truck now and it's electric. And I don't even see a big difference on my electricity bill. So let's say I was paying $250 per month for the whole house. Now I'm probably paying, I don't know, 310, but I was putting gas every 3 days on each of the cars. My wife has a car, I have a car. So these are the things that affect the budget. And in the world we live in, cost things are much more expensive than when we were a kid. Your uncle boat now could probably be much more expensive. I don't think your uncle could afford that boat anymore. And you have to be very wealthy to own a boat, a truck, a country house. It's tough. So people are budgeting, and it's
mm,
part of life. And there's no surprises with that on the EV side. Uh, but there's still people looking for, but because we do sell gas boats, some of them don't give a damn
mm,
about the price of fuel, but the new generation, the families who want to spend as much time together, that's another good thing because it's a cool thing. The kids want to bring their friend to show them how cool that electric thing is. And it's a game changer uh, once you're that guy on the lake. But there's something also big that people don't even talk about. And there's a lake in Austria, maybe you're aware of. There's about 350 of those nautique, and there's a waiting list, and they are all electric. So you want to ski and you want to be on that lake, you need an electric boat, and there's a waiting list. There's many lakes changing the rules and regulation that it's an electric boat, or you cannot show up on our lake even if you have the
mm,
biggest house, you're the prince of that lake, name it. Mm-mm. Things are changing, so it has it has some good effects on that as well, and it's part of it. So there's places that it's your rowboat or your paddle board, or you're buying one of those electric boats. But
mm,
I can see also a big trend. Um, People who understood. The cost is reduced by a lot. These are the rentals operation and the boat clubs. People who own a boat club with 20, 30 gas boats, they can barely make 15, 20, 25% of profit of the whole membership year they have. They have 150 members. They pay $500 a month. So they
Mm,
get $85,000 a year, a month, and they get a million a year. And at the end of the year, they have barely making $200,000. And
mm,
we've been building fleets of electric boats, and we used to have a lot of those electric boats on our own fleet. We did 88,000 rentals of 2 hours, and the cost per day is about 80 cents for us on rentals because boats don't go as fast and as far. So we see the big trends of operations and rentals operation and hotels changing their boats for electric because they see when it's running for many hours. Um, they see the huge difference. So a guy like you that used to run the boat for 8 10 hours,
mm,
man, at the end of the year, there's a huge difference. And your boat, when your boat is 1,000 hours, 1,500 hours, your engine, electric engines, 9 10,000 hours on it. We take the engines out and put them on other project boats, and the hull is destroyed or very damaged because of the number of hours. But the engine, it's a steel engine, and it's a very small engine. It's about 12 inches diameter, so it's about I would say almost 30 centimeters, and it produced 250 horsepower. It's 110 pounds, so about 45 kilogram, and you cannot fix it. You can
mm.
unbolt it, put a new one in, and it's going to be $9,000.
I better start talking to my wife about a budget.
We need to put you on one of those nautique boats because you're a ski boat, and nautique is the way to go on the EV side of the water sports, and they have something
Mm,
very good.
mm. One thing that my parents decided when we were younger, and I didn't understand the importance of this until I was a father. They wanted me and my brother on a boat because if we were on the boat, my parents knew exactly where we were at any given time. And if we were on the boat, we weren't hanging out on the street with the thugs, with the troublemakers. And my parents had a budget to give us fuel, to pay for the boat, to pay for the repairs, to pay for the insurance, because it provided a form of psychological safety for them. The boys are on the boat, they're not drinking, they're not doing drugs, and we know who's going out on the water with them. And during our teenage years, they knew exactly who we were with and where we were at any given time. And that for them created psychological safety. And as I look at other people buying boats today, one of my clients, he's a high net worth individual and he was considering buying a water skiing boat. And I said, get a budget, add another $50,000 to it, and get your kids and your family on the water. Because how children evaluate love is through a 4-letter word called time. And the more time you have with your children, the more loved they feel. And if you're on a boat, you can have extensive one on one time with your children. You can coach them, you can guide them, you can lead them, you can help them overcome their fears. You can help them become more emotionally aware of their limitations, but you can also teach resilience. For me, that photo I showed you before, I'd been in America and I had busted my ribs just weeks before that photo took place. But I had a passion. I had a reason to repair. I had a reason to get back out on the water. 3 weeks after that photo was taken, I got beaten up by 6 guys with baseball bats and I spent 3 days in the hospital. But I recovered because I wanted to get out back on the water. And so you're teaching your kids all these wonderful things. And the more time
And
you have with them, the more love they feel. And the more love they feel, the less likely they're going to abuse their body with substance or other things. Because
and it
families
keeps
who are on the water are
memories.
healthy families. They're always healthy families.
they remember also when you were talking earlier, when you were with your uncle with that crazy boat with the exhaust and the flame, and you were probably, I would guess, between 8 to 12 years old, and you were thrilled. You remember the exact color of that boat and where you were driving that thing around. There, that you don't even know, you remember the name of the teacher back then that was teaching you at school, who was that lady or that man, but you remember that boat because they were building memories. And kids, it's about travel experience, and that's why. And I do trips with my kids. I have a 9 and a 13 years old kids. They don't remember, they won't remember in 20, 30 years, but they will remember the crazy trips. They were driving their own boats, exactly what you just said. They have their own boats, and each weekends they have the options to do everything we want to do, but they want to go back on the boat. It's a new adventures. They remember the adventures and the trips with mom and dad, and every time you're leaving with the boat, something could happen. And probably that day you remember something crazy happened, like when you broke your rib and you did crazy stuff. So you do remember what happened that week when you were in 2003, and I think it was 2003 when you did the
Mhm.
championship. So people remember experience, and they remember travels and trips, and they don't remember the daily stuff. But boat is actually a new adventure every weekend, packing the boat, getting the boat ready, food, drinks, and meeting people on the water, and meeting that neighbor with that crazy color boats, and having you. And time flies, and you're ending up, you're 75 years old, and I should have bought it. I should have did something more than with them. And no, weekends are for that. And as you said, sometimes after work, you have that 2 hour window that we're eating fast, fast, fast. We don't even eat. We're just going to go boat with daddy after work to have that sunset, and it's going to be a blast. Some days, the 2 hours on the water with daddy after work is better than a full Saturday or a full Sunday on the water, because the time, the cat, it's something that you cannot catch up.
Can you see that photo on the screen there? That photo was would have been about 1985, and my dad's teaching me how to water ski, and that was behind his brother's boat. And behind us on the grass in the red bikini, that's my mum. And the reason why she wouldn't have been in the boat is because it would have been too bloody loud. But they're the
Today,
memories.
your mom would drive the boat. My wife, I'm on the phone texting and managing my hundreds of employees that I have, and my wife, is driving the boats. When we go from Florida to the Exuma in the island, and we drive for 10, 12 hours, she's driving it. She has a blast driving a Nimbus. She loves the Nimbus. That one is petrol because it's a huge one, and we use it to commute from 3, 4, 5,000 miles during winter. But once we get back on the island, we're driving a smaller electric boats. You need them with you, and you need your wife, your kids. You need them to have a blast. And if it's loud, it's headaches. Mm-mm.
It's it's also intimidating, the sound of a boat. I remember we would go out there with my girlfriends and my brother's girlfriend, but the girls were intimidated by the sound of the boat. And there was no way that they were going to get in to the cockpit and drive it. But I could imagine my wife, who doesn't even drive a car, she would enjoy being in the boat because there's not too many other boats out on the water where we would go. And she could actually just get in there and enjoy driving the boat. I think that'd be a great thing for her. And I know for my children, it'd be a great way to teach them how to drive a vehicle because I spent so much time on the water. I could actually drive the boat on the river at a younger age than I could drive a car on the road in Australia. Up and down, sensory awareness. Where are the other boats? What's happening in the wind? What's happening with the tide? What's happening when somebody falls off and I've got to turn around and navigate this? How do I deal with other boaters on the water? Many life skills that you gather from being on the water. It's a
My
great thing.
kids have their driver license at 12 years old for driving boats. They do junior lifeguard in the summertime and sailing camp in the afternoon. In the morning, they do junior lifeguard. So if you want to drive a boat, you know how to swim. So junior
Mm.
lifeguard in the morning, and sailing camp to know about maps and all everything that you need to know about boating. And they drive boats. The one is 9 and he's driving. He can drive a 45-footer boat, eyes closed, and the one who's 13, the same thing. I don't let him drive. but he knows how to drive with daddy. I'm behind him, and he knows about rules, regulations, and he passed the course. He's got his card. He cannot drive more than 40 horse, but we have 10, 20, 40 horsepower electric boats around, and he's driving them around, and I'm sitting in the back and I'm watching him, and he behaved good. It's a very
Mm.
nice responsibility, and he will remember that when he's going to be 65, 70 years old. And daddy built a recycled plastic boat, and I'm driving, and that's what we also built, a recycled plastic boats, 16 feet, and they're driving that thing around with their little small electric boats around, and people give them the thumbs up, and they have a blast. It's like if they were driving I don't know, a Rolls Royce on the water. For them, it's the end of the world. They're different than the other ones, and they have a responsibility and they remember it. And
Mm.
if we have the options on a Saturday to take their small 16-footer boats with the 40 horse or a big one, they rather take the family and drive than take the big one if I have to drive.
Mm.
It's all about memory also. It's responsibility, and while they're there, they're not at the park monkeying around and chasing problems, because when you chase problems, they find you very quickly. And our job is to protect them from finding the trouble. They can find trouble everywhere, but if they focused on learning and doing other stuff and meeting different type of people on the water to do water sports or sailing, and then next thing you know, they work for the city during the summer and they're chase patrol, and they also work with the lifeguard section.
Mm.
Lifeguards have bows, and it's a different environment. And if you like being on the water, electric is actually something that is pretty awesome. And next time you're flying to Florida, we're going to put you on one of those electric boats. And if you're with your family,
Please.
we'll give you one for a day. And I want you to drive and give your real honest opinion on them.
I'd love to. Well, being on the water has brought me incredible opportunities that I would have never have got if I was off the water. I started coaching water skiing at age 16, and I took my passion and I started to profit from it. From there, I traveled around Australia. I coached other people. I coached world champions how to become better. I went and lived in the United Kingdom and I drove boats. I worked at the cable ski park. I taught people how to wakeboard. That took me to America. And I was in a place called Raleigh, Durham, which would be on the East Coast. What state's that? What's
North
above New
Carolina?
York? Raleigh, Durham.
I
Where's
think it's
Raleigh?
North. Think it's
North
North
Carolina.
Carolina, or yeah.
I went to North Carolina and I spent a summer teaching kids how to water ski and wakeboard in summer camps. And then I returned to Australia and then I ended up in the Middle East. It was always on the water, always to do with boats. And there's one thing that I can see if there was an improvement to be made was moving away from a lot of petrol boats into electric. Because just that experience there as a rider is if you can get a little bit more time behind the boat, you become better faster and you get more addicted to that. And one of the things that I believe slows progress down is on a traditional boat with petrol, it's just the time that it takes the boat to get up onto plane. And on a small place like at a water ski school, you might only have, I don't know, 500 meters up and down the lake before you got to turn around. And any time where you can get another trick or two in just enables you to progress a lot faster. And that's from the rider's perspective. But from the coach's perspective, I don't like trying to yell and scream over the top of an engine. I don't want to try to yell for 8 hours a day to somebody who's 50 foot behind the boat and they're struggling to hear me. Even with the headsets they wear, they don't work. Better off to have no noise at all. And that's going to be such a better experience. And it's a shame that I wasn't born 20 years later to be in the generation that gets to experience this electric movement. I believe it'll be a much better experience holistically.
For an avid boater like you are, there's something also an add-on. And for regular people, they don't even think about that. But the CG is actually much better on an EV boat than your regular gas boats. The weight doesn't move. The weight, because water moves in ballast, the fuel tank moves.
Mm.
So the way we've designed boats, we've worked with Beneteau and Chris Craft and other big brands of boat manufacturers. We are actually choosing the right place to put the batteries in, and we're using usually the lowest point of the hull, where usually the fuel tank goes in. And the battery we've designed as the same size of a regular fuel tank, and we align them in the middle, usually one, two, sometimes three if you're a rental operation and you want to do water sports for a full day, 12 hours a day, but the weight never move. And
Mm.
if it's a ski boat and you know you need 6,000 pounds, we're going to play with that and we're going to use the space in that boat to get that weight always equal. So the type of wave, once it's your settings are up, then things don't change
Mm.
because you do know that, oh, I need to put more on this side. Now we have less fuel. And then you have a bad driver, as you said.
Or you're asking your friends to run from the back of the boat up into the bow. Let's get the nose down and get the boat up on plane. And
Yeah.
300 or 400 meters later, we ask them to move from the bow back into the back. That sucks. And then you got 5 water bags in there. And exactly what you said there with the fuel. By the end of the day, if you're the last rider, you get the worst ride. The fuel's gone. The weight's all over the place. It's crumbling on one side.
I'm pitching with two Benito the launch of a boat that they've built with me. It was the Four Winds product. Four Winds is a division of Benito. They've built them in Cadillac, Michigan. They have a 1,000,000 foot square production plant. So we are in 2022 Miami Boat Show, and they won in 2023 Boat of the Year with that boat. Long story short, it's all electric. They got the training. So we've got Boating Magazine, the French group. The ladies are coming down to do an interview. And I'm on the dock with the CEO of Benito. It's still a 1 billion market cap company. They're big builders, and I'm proud to work with them and selling them motors. And we've built that boat. I built the first one myself for them to prove them that I had something nice before getting a contract. So we've got all the journalists coming in, and they want to have Benito CEO, CFO on the boat, and I got the journalist and the cameraman. Then they want me to drive. They want to have my CFO on board. Next thing we know, we are on a 24-footer boat, so about 8 meters, and there's 13 people, and it's a nice bow rider, and they are sitting in the front. So there's people on Miami Boat Show. It's huge. We got people watching and filming us, and my captain says, "Man, we won't get that thing on plane. He's hired by Benito because he's part of Benito Insurance. Guy never drove an electric boat." Says, "No, get out, and when it's time, I will give you Florida thing. We'll jump on plane." But there's like 8 people in the bow. That thing will never lift. It's an outboard. No one saw what happened. It jumped on plane like in 8 seconds. 8 people in the front, 13 people in a 8 meter boat. You don't see it because of the torque, and they could discuss and talk. And we slow down, and then says, "Do you think? Do you understand what's going on? We're doing 25 miles per hour. You're talking with the CEO. You're having a good time, and you could never do that on a gas boat." And now they start interviewing the CEO of Benito. So balancing the people in the boat, the CG, and everything. You know what I'm talking about because you've been living that forever on electric. You'll see more and more electric race cars because of that, because the CG is
Mm.
so perfect. Once you know how to dial the product, it's amazing. And also, that's why we've
Hey,
built the fastest electric boat because of the CG and the dialing in and everything that when you masterize your technology, it's pretty
mm,
good.
mm. It sounds like boating is going to be a lot easier for the future. Alex, thank you so much for being here with me today. We're going to put the link to your website in the comment section below, Vision Marine Technologies. And if you're a boat builder, a distributor of boats, a manufacturer, I encourage you to go to the website visionmarinetechnologies.com and have a look at what Alex and his team are building. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for showing me what the vision and the future of water sports could look like with electricity. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And I need you on one of those boats, and I need you to give me your honest opinion on all those boats are riding.
I'll be there. I'll start working on my tan today. Thanks,
We're
Alex.
ready for you.